The observation deck of the Prometheus Dawn hummed with the low thrum of quantum drives pushing the vessel through folded space. Adam Chen stood at the reinforced viewport, watching distant stars stretch into ribbons of light as the ship traversed the membrane between dimensions. 3 months into humanity's first diplomatic mission to the Velkara homeworld, and he still couldn't believe he was here. "You're brooding again," Elsa Martinez said, appearing beside him with 2 thermal pouches of coffee. She handed him one, her dark eyes reflecting the stellar display beyond the glass. "That's the 3rd time this week I've found you staring into the void like it owes you answers." Adam accepted the pouch gratefully. "Just thinking about the summit tomorrow. First contact protocols are one thing in simulation. Actually sitting across from a species that views time nonlinearly, that's something else entirely." Elsa was the mission's xenolinguist, fluent in 7 Earth languages, and somehow managing to grasp the complex harmonic patterns of Velkara communication. Adam served as the cultural liaison, a glorified anthropologist thrown into the deep end of interstellar politics. They'd worked together for 18 months preparing for this mission, long enough to develop an easy friendship built on late-night strategy sessions and shared anxiety about representing their entire species. "The translation matrices are solid," Elsa assured him, "and Queen Sirvana has been nothing but accommodating. Well, accommodating by their standards. Remember, what seems like arrogance to us is just how they communicate hierarchical respect." Adam nodded, though unease still coiled in his stomach. The Velkara were an ancient species, their civilization spanning millennia while humanity had only just figured out faster-than-light travel. They resembled terrestrial mantises, if mantises stood 3 meters tall, possessed 4 arms, and had crystalline growths along their exoskeletons that shifted colors based on emotional states. Queen Sirvana, the matriarch of the ruling hive clan, was particularly imposing, her crystals perpetually glowing with deep violet and silver patterns that Elsa said indicated wisdom and age. The summit was being held on neutral ground, a ring station orbiting a dead star in unclaimed space. Tomorrow, 12 species would gather to discuss territorial boundaries in the newly discovered Perseus arm sectors. Humanity had a seat at the table only because they'd stumbled into the region first, pure dumb luck. One wrong move, and Earth's nascent interstellar presence could be extinguished before it truly began. The summit chamber was a marvel of biomechanical engineering, walls that breathed and adjusted temperature based on the atmospheric needs of different species. The seating arrangement formed a circle, each delegation positioned equidistant from the center where a holographic projection system would display territorial maps. Adam followed Ambassador Kowalski and the rest of the human delegation into the chamber. His assigned seat was near the back of the human section, appropriately insignificant for someone of his junior rank. He moved toward it, grateful to be away from the center of attention. Then he felt it, a presence that made his hindbrain scream warnings about predators and prey. A 4-fingered hand, surprisingly gentle despite its chitinous texture, clasped his shoulder. Adam turned slowly and found himself face to face with Queen Sirvana. Her crystals blazed with colors he hadn't seen before, brilliant gold mixed with deep crimson. Her mandibles clicked in patterns Elsa had taught him meant formal address. The translation implant in his ear rendered her harmonic speech into English with only a slight delay. "You are Adam Chen, the one who dreams of bridges between stars." It wasn't a question. Adam's mouth went dry. "Your Majesty, yes, I'm a cultural liaison." "Sit here, human." The Queen gestured with 2 of her arms toward the seat directly beside her own platform, a position of honor that protocol dictated should only be occupied by high-ranking officials. "I will not hear refusal. Your insight will be required today." The entire chamber had gone silent. Adam could feel Ambassador Kowalski's shocked stare burning into his back. Elsa stood frozen near the entrance, her expression caught between professional concern and barely contained excitement. The other delegations watched with varying degrees of interest or confusion, depending on their understanding of Velkara customs. Queen Sirvana's crystals shifted to include pale blue, expectation mixed with certainty. She wasn't making a request. In Velkara culture, when a queen stated her will, it became reality. To refuse would be to challenge her authority before 11 other species, a diplomatic catastrophe. Adam glanced at Ambassador Kowalski, who after a moment of visible internal struggle nodded curtly. Permission granted, however reluctant. "I'm honored, Your Majesty," Adam managed, moving toward the indicated seat. His legs felt mechanical, each step measured and surreal. As he settled into the seat, which immediately adjusted its composition to accommodate his biology, Queen Sirvana lowered herself onto the adjacent platform. She angled her body toward him, a posture that Elsa's training identified as conferring status. "You wonder why you are here," the Queen said, her voice a harmonic chord only he could hear through proximity. The translation implant rendered private frequencies differently. "Your ambassador believes power is measured in titles and weapons. Your scientist," she tilted her head toward Elsa, "understands words but not yet wisdom. You alone in your delegation see with proper eyes." "I don't understand," Adam whispered. The Queen's crystals pulsed with amber amusement. "3 cycles ago, when your ship first entered this sector, your vessel's data transmissions were intercepted, not by militaries but by historians like myself. We studied your species' communication patterns. Most species announce themselves with threats or demands. Humanity sent poetry, music, stories, and you, Adam Chen, authored the primary cultural package." Memory struck him. Months before departure, he'd been asked to compile a representative sample of human art and philosophy. He'd spent weeks agonizing over selections, trying to capture humanity's complexity. Its violence and compassion, its curiosity and fear, its endless drive to connect. "You included the story of Babel," the Queen continued, "where your ancients built a tower to reach the divine and were scattered by confusion of tongues. Yet you did not present it as tragedy but as question. What if we learn to speak again? What if diversity of voice becomes strength rather than division?" Her crystals flared brilliant white. "This is why you sit beside me, because you understand that true power is not in domination but in translation, not in conquest but in comprehension." The summit began moments later. Territorial disputes arose immediately. The Krithian collective claimed precedent. The Zarn Federation invoked ancient treaties. The human delegation presented survey data. Voices rose. Translation systems struggled with overlapping declarations. Then Queen Sirvana raised 3 of her 4 arms, and silence fell like a curtain. "We debate borders as though space is land to be divided," she said, her words resonating through every translation implant in the chamber. "But we forget space is not territory. It is medium. We do not divide the ocean among swimmers. We map it, navigate it, share it." Ambassador Kowalski leaned forward. "With respect, Your Majesty, resources are finite." "Resources are fungible," the Queen interrupted. "Understanding is not." She turned to Adam. "Cultural liaison Chen, tell them of the Persian Empire." Adam blinked, then understood. She was testing him, or rather, demonstrating his value to the assembly. He stood, aware of every eye, optic sensor, and electromagnetic field detector focusing on him. 25 centuries ago on Earth," he began, his voice steadier than he felt, "the Persian Empire became the largest the world had yet seen. It succeeded not through suppression but through a policy they called unity through diversity. Conquered peoples kept their languages, religions, customs. The empire provided infrastructure, roads, communication systems, protection, but demanded only tribute and peace. It thrived for centuries because difference was treated as strength, not threat. And how did it fall? The Zarn ambassador's translation came through as skeptical clicks. Eventually, through conventional conquest by outside forces, Adam admitted. But the model itself didn't fail. It was replicated, refined, and evolved. The same principle underpins my civilization's most successful periods: cooperation while maintaining distinction. Queen Sirvana's crystals blazed with that brilliant white again. The human proposes what I have long believed. We map these sectors not as property but as commons. We establish waypoints, not borders. We share resources based on need and capability. And we create a council, not of conquest but of translation. The debate that followed lasted 7 hours. Adam found himself called upon repeatedly, asked to clarify precedents, explain human history, draw parallels. Elsa provided linguistic support, but it was his cultural analysis that the assembly kept returning to. When the session finally concluded, a framework had emerged. The Perseus arm would be administered cooperatively, with resources allocated through needs-based arbitration rather than territorial claim. It wasn't perfect. The Crithians lodged formal complaints, the Zarn abstained from voting, but it was a beginning. As delegates filed out, Queen Sirvana placed a gentle hand on Adam's shoulder again. You will return to your world a minor functionary, I suspect. Bureaucracy rewards credentials over insight. But know this, bridge builder. Today you gave 12 species a different way to see the stars. That is legacy beyond rank. Elsa approached as the queen departed, her expression a mixture of pride and awe. Adam, do you realize what just happened? You just helped draft interstellar policy. As a junior cultural liaison, the ambassador is going to have an aneurysm. Adam watched Queen Sirvana's retreating form, her crystals pulsing with satisfied violet. I tried to sit alone, he said quietly. Tried to stay insignificant, safe. And he smiled, and I learned that sometimes the universe has other plans. Sometimes it pulls you beside queens and says, translate this. Sometimes you have to sit where you're needed, not where you're comfortable. Elsa linked her arm through his. Come on, bridge builder. Let's get you back before Kowalski actually combusts. You've got reports to file, and something tells me your career as a minor functionary just got a lot more complicated. As they walked through the station's corridors, Adam glanced back at the summit chamber one last time. Tomorrow, humanity would wake to news of cooperative interstellar policy, never knowing it was shaped by a xenolinguist's translations and a cultural liaison's stories. Never knowing that sometimes the most important diplomatic tools weren't weapons or threats, but understanding and the courage to sit where you were called, even when you wanted to hide. The stars outside continued their eternal dance, indifferent and infinite. But maybe, Adam thought, humanity had just learned how to dance with them instead of against them. It was a start. It was enough.